On tonight's episode of Blatantly Honest with Michaela Nichols, I spoke with Tommy Radon. He's a master choreographer that has worked with the likes of many talents and celebrities from all across the country. His passion for dance started when he was just a boy. This passion ultimately led him to become the target of bullies. These people tried to take everything away from Tommy, including dance, his self-esteem, and almost his life. He hopes to share a story of defying stereotypes, advocating for those who feel alone, and changing the stigma between someone's sex and their interests. It is a privilege to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Never better.
Never. even with COVID and all that kind of stuff, you're just hanging
Even
in
with
there?
COVID. Yes,
Yeah.
even with COVID.
Oh, I know. It's such a
Yeah.
weird time to just like be alive, and especially doing with what you're doing and, the dance studio. That must be a little weird.
It's interesting. It's definitely, it's a game changer, in a way. The nice thing,
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it a few times to where, we teach people who are out of state and stuff like this. So we were kind of used to virtual and reversing. If we're using our left leg, we say our right leg. But it was a tornado that kind of went through not only the ballroom dance industry, but also the jazz industry too.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting. I mean, you even look at how many music tours that got,
Yeah.
let's
Canceled
say
for Tom.
rocked,
Sure.
to where now they're not running until 2021,
Oh,
you know?
it's devastating.
So, yeah.
Devastating. But well, you're making the most out of it and you're doing absolutely incredible. And so this is funny. I don't know if you remember me when I was an itty bitty, but I think maybe you met me when I was like 4 years old. Is that right?
Possibly.
Right. So small town Buffalo. So my dad's like, oh, you might have met him when you were really young. And so, well, anyway, it's
Yeah.
nice to meet you now that we're both adults and doing our best in the careers that we have. So
Well, it's good to meet you finally.
yes. So did you know that you always wanted to do dancing? Let's talk a little bit about your story and when that passion really came into play for you.
I didn't actually. I come from a, really sports orientated family growing up in Buffalo and, your father being friends with our family. I think that we all know my dad was a big football guy. He was drafted by the Cowboys. We were all into football and, then our extended family, the DePaulos, were in the wrestling field, to where, that's all we knew,
Yeah.
We were, we lived in Orchard Park, but it was like on the Orchard Park right near Lackawanna. So like you think of like Jaws and, the Radons or the Palos or whomever in Buffalo, all the football Lackawanna people. And so no, I mean, we grew up, I remember playing flag football. My dad, when we were born, I think we had a football in our hand.
Oh my God.
My dad used to, I don't know how old I was, maybe 4, 5, 6 years old. And I would play, I actually think I went to full contact football then. And no matter what, he would give me $1 for every sack I got. He finally knew how to motivate me. And therefore I would get a stack at the end of every game and go to, the snack shack. But yeah, I didn't know because all we knew was football and wrestling. And then my Uncle Dennis was my wrestling coach for wrestling and almost made it to the States. But again, I was really young. It was for a club. It wasn't for anything in grammar school or high school. But no, I didn't know that I was always going to dance, but it only took one time to know.
Yeah. So tell me about this first time.
Well, I did get into, I was slightly ADD, ADHD, a little bit of a wild child. There's no doubt about that. But my first time wasn't the first time I danced, but the first time I knew. First time I danced at a studio in, I think it was West Seneca, New York. I was 6 years old. Man, I was watching probably what everybody else did, Michael Jackson, and they tried to mimic the moonwalk or break dancing from Break in the movie or something like that. You try to mimic stuff. So my mom put me in this hip hop class, and it was more like jazzercise, and I was like, I don't want this. It's not for me. And then actually there was somebody who lived in our neighborhood, Danielle Petrocarlo and Andrea Fuller, and me and my brother got in a swing class. And I remember performing at this studio. Uh, well, we learned we were really young, and it was at the Pfeiffer Theater. I was probably like, I don't know, let's say I was young, before 13, before
Okay.
10.
Okay.
Um, and I saw this show, and it was from a couple, which I'm not going to use their name, but a couple who originally were from New York, Buffalo,
Mhm.
and they went out to LA. They were married, and I ended up being close with them for a period of time. And they moved back from LA. They're very, very creative and still are to this day. And what they've created is pretty cool. Um, and they held it at the Pfeiffer Theater. And I remember I went back in my head to where I danced in West Seneca because I did their recital too. And I hate the word recital. Sorry for anybody who's in the jazz world. A show is just a nicer term, I think. You're going to go see a show. And I remember how hokey I felt and how like it didn't feel like a game. Like I was still from a football family. You get nervous, you get amped up before playing your first game or a wrestle, ready to win it or not. Um, and it didn't feel like that the first time I danced, but then I went to this show and it was a show. And they had a playbill, like it was not this paper weighted, what you get
Something.
out of a printer. It had good feel to it. It was thick. It was like you're in Broadway. Now their studio was only 60 people, which is a small jazz studio. Very,
Wow.
very small. Like a decent sized jazz studio is anywhere from 200 to 250. A large jazz studio is 500 to 1,000. A big ballroom studio is 60 to 80. A massive ballroom studio is 100,
Oh my
120. But
gosh.
that's because ballroom industry is based on individual. Anyway, I went to this show, and what caught my eye, I was backstage. We did the rehearsal, and they were like full on, like, this is, we're going to set the lights, we're going to do this, we're going to computerize. So I remember it was eye level theater, not a raised up theater. So everybody who was performing was eye level. That was eye catching to me. It's different.
Yeah.
It was weird. Their choreography, their music choices were weird. They were not of the Buffalo realm to where you're using Aerosmith, Dream On, and you're using Ani DeFranco or Tori Amos. Like
It was just weird. And I liked anything that was different, which got me into trouble later. Um, uh, and long story short, that was it. I saw these people who opened the studio a year before. Our family was a very big part of them growing, I feel, as big as they were, um, in a way, but that was just word of mouth because of how special they were and how it touched me. Ever since that day, I never looked back. I took every single class I could. It was interesting,
And you were like
and I got
13-ish
obsessed. Earlier,
earlier.
it was a little younger. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Wow. So a little bit younger. So how did your peers feel that, you went from playing football and contact and now you're doing all these different kinds of dance? How was that?
that was an awesome time in my life. That was,
So you said it was just absolutely amazing to be dancing and going to school and all these kids. How did people take it?
well, uh, and hopefully I speak for most of the dancers out there back in the 90s, early 90s. Um, you come from a football family, you do all this, and Buffalo, as you know, at one point back when it was, using the canals and all that kind of stuff to bring steel to New York, it was a huge theater district. So the arts were very, very big in New York. I
Mhm.
mean, again, it's the sister city, it's the second biggest city in New York State. Something got lost there, to where dancing became different. For some reason, I never understood it. I really don't, because you look at, when people get married, they have their first dance, and that's a huge important part. You look at, all the older movies from the 1800s or 1700s, and they have these big galas where everybody knew how to dance. And how it became into such a generalistic, judgmental thing was really sad. And there's a lot of my friends, some still living and some not because of some of the stuff they went through.
Mm.
They go to different things, whether it be drugs or whether it be alcohol. And it was I was one of the lucky ones, nobody, whoever may disagree or agree with me. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that it was a war. Right now is rewarding that you
Yeah.
make it through that war to where we're doing this interview, but I have been to schools and anti-bullying programs for some of my teachers and talked about some of the stuff that I went through, and it does help. At least it makes you feel less alone.
Hmm.
But back in
But
that day, you
you
were
felt
alone.
alone.
You were.
Hmm.
I mean, because mm, no matter what, I mean, sorry, Dad, I love you to death, but it was hard for him to understand too,
Yeah.
because when people thought about, all right, I wanted to do ballet, lyrical, I wanted to do hip hop, I wanted to do anything that I could get my hands on. And I took every class. And my first class, I remember I looked like a fool because I went into an advanced class. I didn't care. I'll learn fast.
Yeah.
But when everybody thought about it, they think about men in tights and and who cares? Yeah, you do look at ballet. There's a reason why they wear, a jazz belt and they wear tight pants so the woman doesn't get caught in their clothing when they do a lift. They're supposed to
Hmm.
look invisible versus seen, and they're supposed to show the lady. But yeah, it wasn't the best time, and it wasn't short-lived either.
What was some of this bullying like for you? How did it just impact your day-to-day life and your mental health?
Mental health, I actually think it helped it in a way now. You're a little bit crazier for surviving it, which
Hmm.
not a lot of people like doing choreography. I don't think that I'm a great choreographer at all, but I could do it. And then you go to that little bit of a dark place, you come up with some creative stuff. I mean, I'm one of those people, and I don't know that anybody who notices or is like me, anybody who's sad, there's some people who put on like a happy song and try to build themselves up. When I'm sad, I try to put on more depressing music on.
You and me both.
Yeah, yeah. And the stuff that you come up with or think about is very creative. Sometimes not the best thing. It was every day. I mean, periodically. And again, I took dance in the studio that I was at, and there's a connection
Yeah.
to where I'm going to go about the building. I used to run to the dance studio, not run, but like just couldn't wait to get there. And I would be there from 3 to 10:30 at night when I was young. I would be in classes that there were people 10 years older than me in pros, and I didn't care. I just wanted to learn quick, 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 quick. And I just wanted to be there because it was where I was accepted. So I was doing around 40 to 60 hours of dance a week. Um,
Wow.
I was obsessed, and I still am to this day. I mean, I talked to you on the phone the other day. I'm at the studio at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't leave here until 11 o'clock at night, sometimes midnight. And when I get home, I'm on the phone doing more stuff. That will never change in any way because people have tried to take it away from me before, and no one will ever touch what's the most sacred thing to me, which is dancing. I don't care what form, I don't care if it's African and belly dancing, if it's limbo dancing. I have a book right behind me to where I used to do stuff in Buffalo, where I have the limbo queen, Shamika Charles. I respect that. I learned about it. Any style is awesome. But of course, Buffalo's a small town
Hmm.
and some of the stuff, of course, yeah. And I don't want to be judged or anything because I have
Hmm.
a lot of friends who are gay or bi or lesbians or whatever you want to call it. And I have friends that are transvestites. I have straight friends. I have friends who are 90 years old, but and it got a little wild. And sometimes you start to think differently about yourself too. But you get called fag, gay, you get called twinkle toes, you get called whatever. I used to walk into a room, and it was interesting. And if the woman ever sees it to where she allowed it to stay up there for the 45 minutes of the class, I walked in with a picture of me, like cartoon drawing, and it said Tommy Radon, Twinkle Toes, with a dick going in my mouth. And on the bottom it said faggot.
Oh my
And
God.
then around 10 minutes through that class, a Bunsen burner got thrown at the back of my head where I'm bleeding. And I got yelled at. So the teacher did nothing. I was scared to call anybody because I didn't know. I mean, my dad didn't want to hear about dancing or what I brought on myself. It's almost like, you know, and it's not like it at all. Um, because I feel bad. I'm happy with where everything is going, with same-sex marriage and people being able to be individuals or,
Hmm.
interracial, partnerships. It shouldn't matter. My family, they didn't understand. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't of that time.
Hmm. How did that make you feel knowing your family and they're lovely people, but how did it make you
Hmm.
feel just knowing like, hey, my parents don't really see what I'm doing and they don't get it?
Um, I would say my mom was always a huge supporter of anything I did. There's no doubt. And my dad was always a supporter. He just didn't want to admit it. And I think he was just afraid. This is where I was going with those people. Sorry. Backtracking
Yeah, it's okay.
with those interrelations and, same sex. A lot of times the parents of the person who is doing the same sex marriage will disagree with it. And a lot of times saying, I just want the easiest road for you
Mhm.
because they know how hard it's going to be.
Yeah.
I think that's where my family set in. They said, this is not going to be fun. And at that time, there was no such thing in dance or Dancing with the Stars. And a lot of those people are my friends. I mean, again, we have this thing, Dance Talk. Mary Murphy from So You Think You Can Dance, the judge on it, she just did our Dance Talk a week ago. I'm friends with her, known her forever, but we didn't have that. So people didn't understand. They couldn't fathom a dancer making money or making a living. And even if so, I'll eat ramen noodles every day and I'll live in a box and I'll do what the hell I want because what I like to do is dance and make people happy. I'm more of a teacher than a performer, but um, you felt alone because no one could actually understand. You know what I mean? You had the people who would move out to LA back in the 80s, dance for Madonna or Boy George or whomever, George Michael, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, um, it go west, and then you had the 90s, MC Hammer, you had all that, but still it was just such a small denominator.
Mhm.
So you
Wow.
felt alone
Ugh,
because there
I
was
can't
nowhere to run.
imagine. I can't
So you
imagine.
survive. You get survival skills, and again, you have choices. I wasn't going to ever sacrifice what the hell I was going to do. I mean, of course, yeah, you get into alcohol, which I did. Never got into drugs, but at 13, 14, yeah, you get it from anywhere you want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you just try to forget about. You go dance, and you do this, and on the weekends you go dance, you dance, and you train more. And then at night when you're by yourself, you just want to forget about it, and yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Find yourself drinking more to cope with the fact that you felt alone, or was it
Hell yeah,
more? Yeah.
hell yeah. Yeah, and you get into trouble and you fight back in your own kiddish way. Like I was 13, 14 years old. My mom called me and I mean, I was away. I was grounded, but somehow I ended up in Buffalo to Cleveland. And she goes, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in Cleveland. I'm on tour." I was. Was I working it? Who knows? I was on the Nickelodeon tour with the 18s on their tour bus. And 98 Degrees was on that tour and everything,
Yeah.
which was great because that was a success. So inside I felt really good. But on the outside coming in, you feel like you're getting stabbed. I mean,
And
there's
trapped.
who have gone through a lot, and I get calls a lot, which is nice, to work with their kids individually. Kids, and my main thing is anywhere from 21 and up. So
Mhm.
one of my oldest people that I teach is 91 years old. One of my youngest kids is actually 16. But to be able to relate to all is good, and a lot of the times when they're kids, it's because they're going through something bad.
Do you find that when you're talking to these kids, what kind of advice are you giving them? Are you saying, "Hey, like you're not alone," or is it more like, "Let me mentor you"?
Never mentor.
Never mentor.
Yeah, only because you get into trouble. But as long as you can relate, listen. is like Amanda Marshall, the singer. Everybody's got a story. You know, you could be the most wealthiest person in the world and the most unhappiest. You know what I mean? And um, as long as I can relate in some ways, and there's been some people who I've talked to around the country, because the cool thing is I do teach people all over the country. My little base here in Jersey is where I could hide where no one can find me. Um, and this is my family. Like my students are my
Perfect.
family. They're over my house. They're, you know, I love them. Um,
Wow.
but it's
Wow.
to make those kids feel better and I guess maybe not so alone. I mean, everybody, anybody who works through something, whether it's bullying on a minimal scale or a maximum scale, um, is going to feel alone, and no one can really relate to them because as they're going through it, they are alone. They're the only ones dealing with it. What am I going to do? Show up at a high school and beat the crap out of somebody? No, because what's
You
going
might
to happen?
want to, but
You might want to, but then you have laws. But
yeah.
I'm sorry, the mental abuse of it is sometimes worse. You look at divorces. There's a woman and or a man, doesn't matter anymore. Finally, there's an equality of men and women, which it should be. I always think women are much stronger than men. Sorry, guys. But listen, a guy, you know, works 9 to 5. A woman works 9 to 5. She still does the laundry, cooks the meals, takes care. And I'm not saying all men, they're, you know, but let's be honest.
You're on our side. Woo!
Imagine if a man got his period. How are we going to deal with it? Not that well. Um,
You're not
so,
wrong.
well, so, but yeah, as long as they don't feel so alone, or they could at least talk to somebody who has a relation to what they're going through, that we're going through some bad stuff. There's one kid who was going through high school and he called me. Of course, I would love to go there with a baseball bat.
Mhm.
You know what I
But you
mean?
can't. That's not, yeah.
Yeah, and is that the right thing? No, violence is never the right thing. Mental abuse is never the right thing. A debate with a conclusion is the right thing to do. And again, if you have a problem with somebody, you know, because they hurt you for something, that's one thing. But to single out somebody, we're all human beings. We all have a soul. Are we not equal? We all bleed red. You know, why use something to make, are you that unhappy with yourself that you need to single out one or two or three or four people to make yourself feel better and to be more empowered? Trust me, you're going to go through high school. You may be the king now in high school or in grammar school. Later in life, it doesn't always work that way. And
No.
then you're going to regret what you did long, but they don't think about that. They don't think about how much they hurt somebody or why they turned into what they did. A good example of that is the new movie The Joker with Joaquin
Ooh.
Phoenix. You look at how society, you know, it's not right at all, that movie, and how crazy he got, but how far can a person be pushed
Yeah. Yeah, that movie
until
was
they do something
very.
dangerous? You look at suicide. Okay, so a kid's bullying. There was a kid in Clarence. I don't know if you remember. He was a gymnast back in 2006. I remember going to the school, to the site, because I worked with some of the schools, not the Clarence School, but I worked with also some of the police on the bullying program. And he was a brilliant gymnast, a brilliant gymnast. He was bullied. One word, gay, fag, whatever he was called. Whether it was true, whether it wasn't, doesn't matter. If he's gay, then let him be gay.
Mhm.
That's his own prerogative. He hung himself. You look at the kid in Tonawanda, you know, 15 years old, gassed himself in the shed. And then all of a sudden, what if a kid who bullied him, now you have a parent sitting in front of you saying, you know, did you ever say anything bad to my child who's not here anymore? What do you think that kid's going to feel now? Because now all of a sudden, his words became reality, or hers. So now it's not right because there was a result. Anything, words, physical actions, there's always going to be a result. And I think that's what people need to start thinking about more. Sorry, I went on a tangent.
No, no, I love that you did. Not that, you shared what you shared, but like that is the reality of it. And people don't understand that your words have power and your words can literally make someone go home and make their ultimate regret because, there's been stories that I've seen of people who have survived trying to take their own life and they're like, I regretted it immediately. And it's one of those split second decisions that can ruin your family's life, your friend's life, and for what? And it's just a final result for something that could be temporary if only we choose to see it that way.
Correct.
So it's heartbreaking, and I'm sure you've struggled with bullying and other things that you brought up. Did that thought ever go through your mind?
Once.
Once.
I went through it for years, and then I got taken out of school. I got taken out because I knew what I wanted to do. School wasn't really for me, and I started traveling, and I started slipping down a wrong path, and I was young. I mean, I grew up quick. I mean, my friends when I was 14 were 25, 28, 34, and not, this is going to come out bad, it's not, they were people who owned a business, and they were people who my family trusted, and who I trusted too, and my mentors. But it started getting a little too real of, all right, this could be my life or whatever. And I'm kind of like not beating around the bush. I mean, I don't mind saying anything. But I tried going back to school to see if I could have a normal life because I started feeling, and I didn't mind it. I just wanted to make sure I didn't mind it, if this makes sense. And there was only like a 6 month gap when I was taken out of, no, about a year gap. I was taken out, started homeschooling myself and having, because I was traveling a lot and I was dancing. That's all I could focus on. So much. The bullying, I mean, bullying happened 3 weeks ago to me. And, it never stops. But the one that I'm talking about, I went to school, I went back to school, and inevitably it could have been the biggest lawsuit against the school in New York State that could have ever been seen. I just wanted it over. I went back to school, the same shit, different day. Um, People knew I was a dancer, slammed my head in the lockers. I mean, what are you going to do against 3, 4 people? Bleeding.
Yeah.
I just come home, clean myself up. The more I went, and even if I showed my emotions, the worse I got at home. I mean, and not even abuse wise or anything like that. Like my family was never abusive. If I did get reprimanded, we'll put.
Yeah.
And at one point, I got kind of tired of it, so I started reprimanding them in my own way, which is where it got a little bit bad. At home, my brother actually, me and him never really saw eye to eye. And we never, it's not that we never got along,
Didn't see.
we withstanded each other. And I never knew what he really felt. And he knew I was going through, I guess at the time, but never voiced his opinion up until this will be my 5th wedding anniversary. And so
Congrats.
I thank you. 2016. No, wait a minute, 2015. We don't have to edit that. But when
Yeah.
we got married, here, October 16, 2015. October 16th, 2015. I got
There you
it.
go. And in your defense, it has felt like a year just in this quarantine. So
I'm not joking. And my brother's speech, I never knew what he felt, what I went through. And now again, I'm 35, going to be turning 36. He's 37, turning 37. And it was probably the most emotional time that I ever had with my brother. And I'll always respect him for that because at least I knew he knew what I went through and felt not bad for it, but respected me for what I got through. His speech meant, and I don't know if he ever knew this, but it meant everything to me. Because back then when he was calling, my brother would call me gay, fag, or whatever. In his heart, I knew he didn't mean it. We were at, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
22.
So you're 22. So you're too young to remember the pier. You remember the pier?
No, honestly, I probably have pictures on it, but I don't physically and vividly remember it. No.
There was one point that I knew that he cared about me. And this is when I was back in school. They had like a teen night and it was on a beach. It was on the water before
Yeah.
you go over the bridge to Buffalo.
Yes.
So I had a nightclub in Buffalo. I owned one. It was called Sinful Nightclub. Yeah. Now it's called the Waiting Room. It was across from Andy Franco's church. And I had that when I had my dance studio. So anyway, it was right before the bridge, and it was a teen night or whatever. And kids who were bullying me or harassing or whatever they would do, extorting money. Um,
Oh my God.
he finally didn't stand up for me, but I mean, not my dad, my brother was a jock, and his friends were there, and he stood up for me. That was the only time, but I always remember that because I was like, all right, he'll call me gay and all that kind of stuff, and that's I have to look at it that way, me mentally. I know it was never, again, they never would understand, but um, we've had 4 or 5 different publishers wanting to publish the book for the last 7 years. Me and my
Wow.
friend worked on it, and kind of explains whatever.
Why are you hesitant to release it?
Um, I don't know, because I have no problem talking about the story that I'm going to talk about, or how in detailed it gets. And it's not necessarily my views, it's just that I think everybody should be treated equal. When you have police reports and you have all these synopsis of what I went through, it takes a little bit of balls. You have to really see what backlash, and no matter how good your intentions are in this world, you're always going to get backlash.
Yeah.
Always. No matter how good, no matter how perfect they are, there's going to be somebody saying bullshit. I dealt with
Always.
that. I dealt with that back in December. Somebody was supposed to be close to me and just flipped, and you know what I mean? It's just interesting
People.
people, and especially in the entertainment world.
Mm-hmm.
I must say, in this dance sport world, it's pretty special. I mean, everybody is pretty much who they are, and anybody who, with the charity thing that we've been doing, we got a pretty amazing world, and I'm really proud of that. And I just wanted to see if it was going to be different, just different. No, I just wanted to see if I was still going to be judged the same way or criticized or whatever you want to. I'm just lucky I'm still dancing and happy that it is what it is. Anyway, went to this party. I walk in and I see all those guys, and it was a setup. So I went into the garage. I came through a window. He did go to jail. Ripped my shoulder apart, my knee apart. Um, Beat the absolute shit out of me. And more stuff happened, which doesn't need to really be released on this. And then I got thrown through another window just because I was different. Now, there's no doubt, even today, people hear me talk and people see how I act, if I'm limp wrist, if I'm this or that. That's who I am. I'm eccentric. I am what I am. But I'll tell you what, a lot of the women in my life raised me. And you pick up qualities from them, and I'm better for it. They can make their own judgmentals. I'm going to be eccentric. I'm going to talk how I talk. I'm going to act how I act, because what you see is what you get.
Wow.
Because still standing. So there's this kid who drove me home. And, of course, I got scars on my face, and you can't see them in this, and on my shoulders, and knee, the back of my calves. And cleaned myself up, ran upstairs. Not ran, but no one was home. Just kept on going and going and going. Cleaned my week went by, And during that week, those kids who were bullying me were asking for money, or otherwise they were saying it was going to happen again, and da 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 da. So I started stealing money from my father.
Oh my God. I just
Got,
can't.
it got to a point to where it was like $10,000 of what I stole. I found his safe box. Sorry, Dad, you gotta hide it again or somewhere. Now, granted, so I stole money from him before because I was angry at him. You know what I mean? And that was a way that I thought I was punishing my own father, which of course made him furious.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't even know you don't know the realization of money. And I was doing choreography. I was making my own money. I mean, I was doing great. I had my own company at that point in time. It was called Storm Choreography. I opened that when I was 13 or 14. And I still own Storm to this day, 21, 22, 23 years later. I got to
And
perform at the Michael Landon Awards in New York. I mean, big place.
wow.
Cool.
So you have made the best out of everything god awful.
Well,
That
it goes on.
what?
So,
It goes on?
of course. So,
Ugh.
stole the
People.
$10,000 or however. It might have been 20, might have been 5. I don't remember. Gave it to him. And then I was just like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck it. I'm so sick of people not understanding what another person's going through, but also the judgmental ways of how it's unfathomable of how even one word or one action or even body language, can go. It would be amazing if people woke up in a bad mood and they stayed home.
It
You
would
talk
be
about quarantine. You talk about quarantine. Let's lock up everybody who's in a bad mood that day. Let's see how happy the world can get. Because why be in the world and add more anger? Look at what's happening in Minneapolis.
yeah,
Look at all that crap going on right now.
I know it's
You know,
awful.
it's terrible. Why? Because you're judging somebody, or because uh, uh, somebody had a problem with a color? That's stupid.
Yes.
That's stupid.
We should be past that.
Yeah, it's a new day and age. We all just need to get along, and the world will be a hell of a lot better place. I love beauty pageants. My friend Susie Hosfeld hopefully watches this. She owns NV Model and Talent, and she is probably one of the best trainers for young women in this world. She was Miss Minneapolis or Minnesota back in the 80s. Been one of my really good friends for a long time. And she believes truly when those beauty pageant people, they make a joke of it, make a world a better place. That woman really believes it. That is her goal, and she has. She's like Swarovski crystal water. She's wonderful. So anyway, long story short, a lot of bad stuff happened that night. I got extorted money. Tina Turner concert, who's one of my favorite artists, just because of what she went through. I was like, I
Hmm.
relate to that. I watched the movie. What's Love Got to Do with It? If you haven't seen it, see it. You know,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know, somebody who went through hell. I mean, she got raped, she got beat up, she got coked up, she got everything. So we went to go see her retirement concert. We were in a suite at the HSBC Arena, and I got trashed. And I would never get like that. Everybody knew that I drank. I mean, but I wouldn't drink to get drunk ever.
Mhm.
And your demons catch up with you. You look at something to latch out on. And I did. I got whatever. My mom and my aunt are looking at me, and I'm looking like a fool. And they're like, is something wrong? I go, no, nope, just enjoying the wonderful life here on Earth.
Ugh.
Now I had makeup on. The nice thing was I was in the entertainment business. I knew how to cover up. So no one knew that anything was wrong. I hid it and hid it and hid it. And then you finally get to that point to where you are truly alone and have nothing. There are no more Legos to take off the top. You're down to your last layer. It's done. So you either do a cry for help or you actually do it. Hmm?
That was your point. What should we talk about?
Probably
Or
like
is there a couple?
3 or 4 months after that, I started really screwing stuff up because mentally I was so screwed up. I started stealing choreography and saying it was mine, and like,
Mm,
and again, all that is beyond. You know what I mean? I apologize for that, and they understood. But I couldn't create anything. I used to be a great creator. Now I couldn't create anything because I just didn't have anything in myself to give away anymore.
mm.
So I was like, whatever, screw it. Why create something so they could take more from me? I'll take from them. That's what people do. That's not a way to live. So now all of a sudden it's affecting my dancing.
Yes, it's taking
So
away the one thing
therefore
you
the
love so
blackness
much.
cloud and the fog starts to cover your happiness also. So I did a cry for help. Oh, it was the alternative.
Oh God.
So I can't even say that I tried. I got the razor blade. And I knew what I was doing. I knew I never could have. I made markings on my wrists. And I was yelling, Mom.
Mm,
So my mom came running. She saw a little bit of red. Like I just couldn't. But I knew I needed help. And my mom, I think it was 15 or 16 years old. Again, I've already been dancing for what, 9 years? I was already 8 years, whatever, and I was already pretty successful, making money, good money, but at what cost? And not the cost of me, but because of society. And I'm not, society's good. Like, it comes across like I'm anti-society. It
no,
has
it
nothing to do
doesn't.
with that. It's just, so me and my dad at that point in time didn't talk for around 6 months to a year. And the talking, if we did talk, it was not nice. 70% on my end because now I'm angry and I just don't want to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and there's no measure. So long story short, they found me. My dad was outside the door listening. I told my mom everything that happened. All I heard was the door slam. And my dad, it was the first time in like 6 months to a year to where, kind of like my brother, you find out they care. You're not so alone. And at that point, everything went to the police and detectives and all this. It's much worse than anybody could possibly imagine, and more than I care to share until the book's out. Um, but it was pretty amazing. So they took me to Bry Lynn, which was a psych unit, which I wanted to go to just to hide myself from anything
Mm-hmm.
because it was a possibility. I got out in 2 days. It was voluntarily, and people are usually there for months. They said he doesn't belong here, which is good. So I had two choices at that point in time. If you're going to do it, and this is exactly what I was thinking in my head, if I'm going to kill myself, then do it. And or use everything negative that happened to help others and just try to make the best of it. At that point in time, I found something, not actually at that point in time, probably a few years later, I found uh, a quote to where I live by all the time. And the business that I run is based on personal lessons, one-on-one. I don't mind teaching groups. I still do it. I still do. I taught a group that last year that probably had 300 people in it.
Wow.
I mean, that I get asked to do conventions and stuff, and that's fine. I mean, I did the model and talent conventions. I used to be a scout, all that, and be around big crowds. Even after that, do I like to? No. I like one-on-one because I get to know the person and I actually get to make them feel better and I can relate in any way. I've been through bullying, I've been through beat up, I've been through pretty much anything you possibly that I do live by was by Robin Williams. I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it's like to feel absolutely worthless and they don't want anyone else to feel like that. And the thing is that we have the power, people who know what that feels like, and it makes you probably one of the most positive people in the world. It sounds like it's a negative thing, and it's not. The problem with Robin Williams, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, is he never knew how to turn off his brain. You know, it was just go, go, go. But he made a lot of people happy.
That he
My
did.
job, I could relate to anybody, any race, any sexuality. Because you second guess your sexuality when people start calling you gay that much. Trust me. Start thinking, are they right? Am I crazy? And if I was gay, I would do pretty well, I think. So why wouldn't I be out?
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, that's the truth. Hey, but I'm not. But you start, I mean, girls didn't want to date me because they were like, he's being called gay and fag and all that. So you start, I mean, there is everything emotionally, physically. It was interesting. But it was the best thing that could have happened to me because I lived through it. I lived through everything. And I learned how to turn into a positive. You start
And
doing charity events and
yeah, happy stuff because we talked about all the god awful things that you went through, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. But
it was a blessing. It was better than my brother and my sister going through it. It was better
exactly,
than anybody else going through it. Better than you going through it. I could handle it.
yeah, they always
I,
say
oh, go ahead.
no, no, they always say God gives his toughest battles to his strongest of soldiers, and I live like that is like my quote
Hmm.
because you and I have both gone through horrible things, but it's like, what do we do with it?
What do you do with it? You can
And
make a difference. And,
yes,
you know, again, I'll send you my brother's speech. It was well written. Um,
yeah, I would love to
when
see
you
it.
have anger and hurt and you combine that into a positive thing, there's no bigger power than that. No
There's
matter
really
how many people will be against you. I mean, it followed me all the way to Jersey. People tried to break up my wife and me, saying I'm gay, and they called her family saying that I was gay. Her family is amazing, and they have accepted me. You know what I mean? And but that's and the reason why they did that is because they didn't want my eyes off the prize to make their company more money. Because if me and Jenny got together, I would take her away. And it wasn't even my idea for us to go together. But anyway, we're together. Some
it
of the
was
positive stuff. Let me talk. Do you like my ADD?
positive stuff. So what has been one of your greatest accomplishments? I know you mentioned like have you done Dancing with the Stars or So You Think You Can Dance or just your own choreograph like Storm. What is it to you?
Um, all of it. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff. I never did Dancing with the Stars ABC. I did stuff with them. I did the Disney Christmas Day Parade in 2007. Was on stage with all the ABC. I mean, and I know all of them, and they're all good people for our industry. Um, but that wasn't an accomplishment. Sorry, Dancer with the Stars.
You
I've
got
done
bigger things.
yeah, I've done choreography for tours, and you know, um, my record still being, let's say, recorded by the Guinness World Record. I did the world's most lessons in a week, and I did that for pediatric cancer. That was back in 2008. But New York recognized it, and that was nice. But no, I pretty much in Arthur Murray's I won, which is a big chain. Um, what I'm proud of in the business sense, Arthur Murray's is a big chain in the ballroom and Latin business. I won top supervisor and everything in that in 2005. Fred Astaire was a big chain in the United States and world. I won top everything in that, top teacher. And in the independent realm worldwide, I won top teacher in that. Now, does that make you the best dancer? No. No, you just work hard. Um, what I'm most proud of, um, I would say all my students. I'm proud of my students and I'm proud of my wife. I put them to be with me is not the easiest task. You know, especially going through what I went through, you do have moments to where that anger comes out. You know, I have bad days, I have good days. There, on those bad days, I cannot teach, but they're very, very few and far in between. My students for the past 20 years, um, I, I probably, yeah, well, let's say 19 years. For the past 19 years, when I went pro, I have worked no less every week than 100 hours a week. My max is 164 hours in a week. There's only 168. And yes, I have worked 164 hours in one week. That's again. I had a stroke. I had a minor stroke on that,
Oh, oh
but it
my
was worth it because I tell you what, you meet one of those pediatric cancer patients, you better want to stay awake because what they do every night, they stay awake. Roswell, it was for Roswell. It's called Carly's Club. And I got it, did a face painting. You could Google it, Tommy Radon, uh, Dance Marathon, Fred Astaire, whatever. This is like 2006. I donated my paycheck. But those
wow.
kids are special. And there was a cool story. And the funny thing is, I always get quickly caught up in the mix. My Aunt Sue. I don't know. Do you know my Aunt Sue? No? Yes? Maybe so?
Possibly, maybe.
It's like the Radon complex. So my Aunt Sue, and I remember being there also. Um, my mom, my Aunt Sue, and my grandma were very, 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 very big portions of my life. By
Yeah.
the way, this is the outside dance studio that I
Oh,
made.
wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah, man, crazy. Um,
Beautiful day in West, or I was gonna say Western New York, but it's Jersey.
so my aunt, we were at the Leukemia Society benefit. It was called Diamond Ball. There's this little girl who was maybe 7 years old, and I was known for teaching a lot. And one of the questions was after, I mean, the girl was sweet. Of course, curiosity
Of course.
is curiosity. Are you afraid of dying? 11-year-old girl. And this is a story, and I can't remember if I asked or somebody did or if I was even there, but I remember hearing this story, and it stayed with me for a really long time. And she goes, well, why would I be afraid of dying? She goes, I have a great family, had a good life, I'm happy, and people love me. I think a lot of people could live about that. So I did the whole entire marathon, and I was known for, again, always for teaching a lot of lessons, and
Mhm.
but that stayed with me for a long time. Everything could be a lot worse. Unfortunately, that little girl is no longer with us, but
I mean, even death is difficult for me to wrap my head around.
Mhm.
To die with cancer is just, ugh.
Right.
Ugh.
So the positive things we learn for those who are strong and giving, exactly what you said, the hand that you're dealt, and if you survive, that's awesome. Um, if you don't, that's obviously very sad, but there are people out there who can survive, and the more that people feel like they're not alone, the better. Number one. For me, though, I got to raise a lot of money for a lot of things in Buffalo. Um, Chop. Chop is probably one of my best accomplishments.
Mhm.
Children's Hospital, I did a lot of work with Variety Club, rose a lot of money through Storm. Once I turned it over from a choreography business to a charity company. In Children's Hospital, there's a revolving pharmacy, and I was part of that. Um, but you know, I would still have to say the people who are in my life that I get to see every day and who support my craziness. I mean, I do crazy things. So where, you know, tomorrow we're not allowed to have people in the studio. I mean, we can have one-on-one since last week, but they opened up social gatherings up to 25. So we get a dunk tank, we get some cornhole. I'm having a DJ come, chalking out parking spaces and making a good time for people just to have some fun and raise some money for a family that needs it. We've raised money. We created Ballroom Dancers Give Back. March 18th, we got the trademark name. Probably sent out over $14,000 that was donated in the past 2 months to people who need it. Tomorrow we're hoping to raise another 20,000. So, but no, I'm proud of my students who are my family. I'm proud of my wife for staying with me. Um, I'm not the easiest at all. Um, I'm married to my work. I'm married to her. Um, and I'm definitely proud of my mom and my dad. More, I would say my dad. I'm extremely proud of. I remember we went to Iliad Apollo's, my uncle's restaurant. He apologized to me after we didn't talk for a long time, and it's never that he never supported me. He just sometimes when something is so bizarre to another person, not bizarre, um, different and unorthodox in a family that you grew up in, it's hard to take. And, you know, my family, each and every one of them is very, very special. My sister is a little bit of a nutcase. I love her to death. She's me in the female format.
Yeah.
My brother may not talk, but heart is gold.
Wow.
My dad, my aunt, my grandma, my grandpa, my uncle, all of them. And my wife's family is also. I'm extremely lucky. I would have never had that chance if I didn't get through what I needed to get through. And that would have been cheating myself out of life because it does get better. It does. It stays with you for life. There ain't no doubt. But hey, here's the thing, you can help people who are younger and or older.
Yes. Your story is just you. I am so proud of you to have made the best out of it because I know how difficult it is, and I wish I could be at your dunk tank tomorrow, and I also would go in and try to help you raise some money, and I I thank you for sharing your story because I know it's not always easy, and yeah, I can't wait to read that book because I know it's going to save a lot of lives, and I hope this message and this podcast saves a lot of lives because it should.
Thank
Well,
you.
hopefully we'll get to meet in person sometime.
I would like that. You're in
I like
where you're based there.
Orlando. Yep.
I'm
So,
there. I'm there a lot.
well, you let me know next time you're here, and we'll get together. Maybe you
You'll
can
see
teach
me.
me a few moves.
You'll see. You'll see me compete. I'm there in September.
Okay. Well, I will be there in September then. So you just let me know when.
Bold, be you, and be blatantly honest.